Hello, it's Aubrey again with another All Points Bulletin, this time related to why nothing's being done, because it's a really good question and there's an answer for it. So typically when you witness a crime or you have evidence of a crime, you can go to the police department and a sheriff's deputy or other peace officer will review and decide whether or not this is worthy of investigating and potentially referring for criminal prosecution. The issue here is that in every state, the Secretary of State has been deemed the chief elections officer, and they have convinced the sheriffs that election-related crimes are not in the sheriff's purview. They're not under the sheriff's purview. That they need to refer all election-related crimes to the Secretary of State's office, who does nothing. The Secretary of State is not law enforcement. The Secretary of State authorizes waiving and not adhering to state election laws. We've seen that across the nation. Here in Texas, we deal with that as well. The Secretary of State will issue advisory codes and then waive the necessity to follow their own advisory codes. They just make it up as they go along. And they'll never tell you, oh, that local election official who violated state statute, I told them that they don't have to follow that law. That's not how they'll say it. Using Texas as an example, they will say, well, per Chapter 128 of the Texas Election Code, I've been given supreme authority over election systems. But that's not what Chapter 128 says. Chapter 128 of the Texas Election Code merely gives the Secretary of State authority to advise counties using computerized voting systems how they might deal with unforeseen issues arising from the use of the computerized voting system. It does not give the Secretary of State the power to make or amend or violate state election codes. They can merely advise counties on how they will adhere to state election codes when using computerized voting systems and an unforeseen issue arises. But what's happening is the Secretaries of State are absorbing all of our complaints and doing very little about it. They like to go after the individuals. I'll use an example. A felon who gets out of prison and doesn't realize that they're not eligible to vote and goes to cast a vote. They'll throw the book at that felon. They will never go after the mules. They'll never go after people that are unlawfully influencing the outcome of elections. They will never go after local officials that violate the law. They won't go after the officials that violate their own Secretary of State advisory codes. Many of our Secretaries of State are part of these NGO organizations like National Association of Secretaries of State, the Election Center, Election Science, National Association of Counties, National Association of Elections Administrators. These are globalist hubs where they teach Secretaries of State how to convince us that good things are bad and bad things are good. So not following election law is securing elections. Following election law is bad for elections. Prosecuting election crimes is the Secretary of State's job, even though they're not law enforcement. And if a sheriff tries to prosecute an election crime that occurred in his county, he should be investigated. That's why when you take evidence to the sheriffs about election-related issues, they feel as though they can't do anything. Article 1, Section 4 of the National Constitution gives state legislatures the power to amend or change or create legislation related to our elections. And Chapter 128 of the Texas Election Code does not give that power over to the Secretary of State, no matter how badly these Secretaries of State want that to be true. They can only advise county officials on how to adhere to the law. So if the Secretaries of State want to keep playing games, they're going to catch charges too, because our sheriffs are coming out of the woodworks and they are going to enforce the law in their counties as the law is written.